Coming up on the National Rundown, find out about the California primary, an exciting night for the NBA, and why unemployment benefits are plunging.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds.
Good evening and welcome to the National Rundown. I'm Alexa Carini.
And I'm Jenna Lundstedt. Nearly 40,000 Verizon workers walk off the job in one of the largest U.S. strikes in recent years. The strike that started yesterday could affect Verizon Fios's internet, telephone, and TV services in several states on the East Coast, including New York and Massachusetts. The walkout doesn't extend to the wireless operation. Those striking say that they have been without a contract since August, leaving them without a clue about issues including health care and pensions. The last strike occurred in 2011 and lasted 2 weeks.
Texas teenager is charged with 2 years in county jail after a fatal drunk driving wreck. In 2013, the 19-year-old Ethan Couch used affluenza as a defense, but Judge Wayne Salvin decided the Texas teen would have to serve 180 days for each of the 4 victims who lost their lives in the accident. Judge Salvin told the teen's attorney that he has 2 weeks to prepare an argument to the sentence. The judge says nothing is set in stone and he is willing to hear the defense. Now we will learn about the very important California primary.
It's going to be California.
California counts for the first time in a generation. Voters here could determine the outcome of a presidential primary.
We're going to have the most influence on the presidential nomination process in my entire lifetime.
This is their chance to determine our nominee. And so there's a tremendous amount of excitement.
For many years, California has just been an ATM for fundraising, but now they're actually here for our votes, not just our money.
Republican Ted Cruz has already made public campaign stops in Southern California this week, and Donald Trump may be here in a matter of days. Trump has now hired Auburn resident Tim Clark to direct his statewide campaign, and he says the close race will boost voter turnout.
We're seeing in district after district just huge numbers of Republicans planning to vote.
Both parties will focus on nonpartisan registered voters who can cast a ballot for Democrats, but not Republicans in the June primary.
You've got to get your voter registration changed to Republican before May 23rd if you want to vote in the Republican primary.
Hillary Clinton has to worry that all these independent voters are going to vote in the Democratic primary, and Bernie Sanders has an edge among them.
And now, with just 4 weeks before ballots go out, candidates are hoping the Golden State is their golden ticket to the general election in November.
Being the last primary on the calendar usually is often a snoozer, but this time it's going to be the grand finale.
Police raid the offices of law firms where the Panama Papers were leaked. The investigation took place at the headquarters of Mossack Fonseca in Panama City early this morning. Officials are searching for evidence of money laundering and links to terrorist financing. 11.5 million confidential documents of wealthy individuals were leaked, and police say they are after the firm for possible illicit activities. Mossack Fonseca has denied any wrongdoing.
This next story sounds like deja vu. The Federal Reserve announces that 5 of the nation's largest banks are not prepared if a crisis similar to the one in 2008 occurs. Bank of America and Wells Fargo were 2 of the banks named in the reports, lacking the necessary plans on how they would fail in an orderly way without requiring money from the public. The Federal Reserve is requiring each bank, including Bank of New York Mellon and JP Morgan Chase and State Street, address the deficiencies in the living will plans by October 1st, 2016, or face more stringent requirements. The White House hosted its annual science fair, intriguing the minds and hearts of students dedicated to their achievements in science and innovation. President Obama started the event in 2009 and has continued to host it throughout his presidency. President Obama praised each participant and encouraged them to continue making strides in advancing technology.
Newly declassified and released reports show that the FBI used hacking software long before the recent iPhone fight. In 2013, the FBI agents were involved in a secret investigation where they were granted permission from a judge to install software on computers to help get around the encryption. As a result, companies like Apple and Google are fighting for stricter laws to prevent the FBI from gathering information from secured devices.
Today, Russian defense officials reject U.S. criticism of 2 Russian pilots who flew by an American guided missile destroyer in the Baltic Sea earlier this week. A defense official told Fox News that 2 Russian-attacked aircrafts approached the USS Donald Cook at unsafe speeds and altitudes as a helicopter was taking them off a flight deck. The jets came within 1,000 yards of the destroyer. White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest says the incident was part of a pattern of unsafe Russian aircraft action and violates a 1970s agreement to prevent unsafe incidents at sea. And now, here's Cherie Moore with a recap on a historical night in the NBA.
Thanks, Jenna. It was an emotional night, and many throats are hoarse from screaming and excitement with everything going on in the NBA, starting with last night's Lakers game where the NBA paid tribute to one of the greatest players who played 20 years in the league as the Lakers, Kobe Bryant. And Kobe made sure he went out in style, scoring a high 60 points in his final game. Speaking of emotional nights, the Golden State Warriors celebrated their 73rd win, breaking what many thought an incomparable mark set by Michael Jordan's Bulls with 72 wins. And remember, the NBA playoffs begin this weekend. For a full lineup of teams and games, you can go to www.nba.com. The 2016 Hockey Stanley Cup playoffs started last night and continues with 4 games tonight, including our own Philadelphia Flyers versus the Washington Capitals, beginning at 7 p.m. That wraps up the sports news this week for the National Rundown. Back to you at the desk.
Nature magazine publishes a study where researchers report using a chip in the brain that reconnects mental commands into movements to their responsive muscles in the limbs, creating a synthetic nervous system. The pioneering patient, Ian Burkhart, a 24-year-old man left with quadriplegia after a diving accident almost 6 years ago, can now move his hand. The system works with using a chip microelectrode arrays to the brain. The implant picks up activity in specific areas which researchers analyze prior to placing the implant. While the study is a milestone, doctors say they need to continue working on fine-tuning the system, make it adaptable to other types of paralysis patients, and most importantly, make it outside work of clinical settings. Coming up with Christian will tell us about a Florida prosecutor's decision not to file charges against Donald Trump's campaign manager.
You didn't give up on sex. Don't give up on birth control either. There are more methods than you think. Find yours at bedsider.org.
Nearly 40,000 Verizon workers walk off the job in one of the largest U.S. strikes in recent years. The strike is called by the Communications Workers of America and the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers that jointly represents employees with jobs such as customer service representatives and network technicians within the company. The strike can affect service in Verizon's Fios Internet, telephone and TV services across several East Coast states, including New York, Massachusetts, and Virginia. But the walkout does not extend to the wireless operation. Verizon and unions are talking since last June over the company's plan to cut health care and pension-related benefits over a 3-year period. There are workers who have been without a contract since the agreement expired in August, covering issues like health care, offshore call center jobs, and job relocation and pension. The last strike occurred in 2011 over contract negotiations and agreements were reached after 2 weeks.
Now we have Samantha Barrett to reveal which American Idol star just had a baby. Samantha?
Thanks, guys. An American Idol alum has exciting news. Kelly Clarkson announces the birth of a baby boy. On April 12th, a healthy boy was delivered. Clarkson announced on Twitter that she named him Remington Alexander Blackstock. This is the second child Clarkson has with her husband. They previously had a daughter, River. The singer Diana Ross is a passenger in a car accident in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. The cause of the crash is still under investigation. According to the Bethlehem Police Department, Ross and her limo driver were not injured. The driver of the other car only suffered minor injuries. Ross was on her way to a show at the Sands Event Center at the time of the accident. One of the cars had to be towed from the scene due to damage. David Guest, famed music producer, dies at the age of 62 on Tuesday in a London hotel. He became famous for his 5-year marriage to Liza Minnelli. That lasted from 2002 to 2007. They divorced amid claims that Guest physically abused Minnelli during their marriage. Michael Jackson was also very close with Guest. In fact, he was the man of honor at his wedding to Liza Minnelli. Debbie Ryan, an actress mainly known for her work on the Disney Channel, is arrested for a DUI in Los Angeles. The local authorities eventually reduced her sentence to a misdemeanor. Ryan was apologetic to her fans within a Twitter post, explaining that she understands that she is a role model and wishes she had made a better decision. I'm Samantha Barrett, and that was your entertainment news. Back to you guys at the desk.
Let's now turn to Pat Campbell with the latest on a controversial bill in Canada.
Welcome to your World News Minute. A newly released video shows what appears to be 15 women captured by the Boko Haram in Nigeria 2 years ago. If the video is legitimate, it would be the first time the women have been seen since May 2014. The women were part of a group of 276 captured from the village of Chibok. In Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau introduces a bill to legalize doctor-assisted suicide. The bill, which is designed to help terminally ill patients, is only available to Canadian citizens, and foreigners coming into the country do not qualify for it. The Zika virus has officially hit home. The Center for Disease Control said Monday that the virus is, quote, scarier than we initially thought. The Zika outbreak began in Brazil in 2015 and is mainly linked to birth defects, with 200 deaths occurring since the outbreak began. That's it for your World News Minute. Back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Pat. The number of Americans who are unemployed has dropped to its lowest rate since 1973. This is good news because the lower employment rate leads to a better economy. The Department of Labor estimates that as of March 2016, the number of Americans who are unemployed has dropped to a little over 2 million.
We have Christian Springer here for more details on the case dropped against Donald Trump's campaign manager. Hi, Christian.
Hey, how are you guys?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
So, where did these charges come from originally?
So, on March 8th, so last month, a reporter for Breitbart was assaulted allegedly by Trump's campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski. And so the local police there in Florida decided initially to file charges.
And what's the reason that they're not going to continue with the case?
So upon further investigation and looking at the evidence, they decided not to file charges because when they looked at the video, they said the reporter, Michelle Fields, had gone into the Secret Service bubble that Donald Trump was surrounded by. And so they're just debating whether there was reasonable cause for her to be shoved out of the way. So it kind of turned to like a he said versus she said kind of thing. And it just got to the point where the charges didn't match the evidence available. So they decided to drop the charges.
So what's going to be next?
Well, what's next is possibly a defamation suit, because after this all happened, the campaign manager, Mr. Lewandowski, he said on Twitter that this reporter is delusional and was just saying he didn't touch her at all, which is also not true. So if she wants to continue, she could file like a civil suit. So we'll see what happens. But for now, everything's kind of mellowed out.
Great,
right,
thanks,
thank
Christian.
you.
You're welcome.
There's a lot of oil leaking into the British Petroleum CEO Bob Dudley's pocket today. In the annual conference in London, 59% of shareholders decided to vote down Dudley's $19.6 million pay and benefits package. However, the company decided to pay the CEO anyway, going against the shareholders' vote. This occurs 6 years after the BP's Gulf of Mexico oil leak disaster, which cost the company over $7 billion of damage.
It's nothing new to find old items in the attic, but when that item is a 400-year-old painting worth $136 million, it's sort of a big deal. The painting was discovered in Toulouse, France, and experts believe it belonged to Italian artist Caravaggio.
Find out about the latest Zika virus scare after the break.
Checking your fantasy league?
Nah, just my 401k statement.
I can't seem to save anything.
I got a pizza for a Todd.
Hey, can somebody spot me?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org.
It's certainly a throwback Thursday for presidential nominee Bernie Sanders. Viral footage has surfaced social media this week of the senator discussing his dreams of becoming a president in an interview that occurred in 1988. Sanders was the mayor of Burlington, Vermont during the conversation, but discussed how he would like to see a president in the future who has the guts to stand up for the people of this own country. This is an ironic due to the fact that he has been Sanders' song and dance for his entire campaign.
President Barack Obama admits that his worst mistake during his term as president was not planning for the aftermath of the 2011 toppling of the Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi. Obama feels that although the intervention went as well as it could, the current state of Libya is a mess. President Obama says that his best day in the White House was when the health care reform was passed, and that his worst day in office was dealing with the aftermath of the Sandy Hook massacre. The Zika virus is turning out to be scarier for those infected than originally thought. Director of the National Institute for Allergy and Infectious Disease, Anthony Fauci, told the Center for Disease that the more they learn about the infectious disease, the more they get concerned about it. The mosquito-borne virus can cause microcephaly and is linked to the birth defects of premature birth, eye and neurological issues in humans. Officials still say the best way to protect yourself is to stay out of tropical areas that have outbreaks and to apply bug repellent to stay safe.
What happens when Robert gets hungry? Find out the answer coming up next.
Every day across America, excess food is gathered by a network of good people at local food banks, giving hope to millions of children who struggle with hunger. They've earned their wings, and you can too. Together, we can solve child hunger. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
Yo, check out this chef, right? Right? That's so gay. That's really gay. Dude, look at those hands.
Please don't say that.
What?
Don't say that something is gay when you mean that something is dumb or stupid. It's insulting. It's like if I thought this pepper shaker was stupid and I said, man, this pepper shaker is so 16-year-old boy with a cheesy mustache. Just saying. When you say that's so gay, do you realize what you say? Knock it off.
There's a real-life Hamburglar in the nation's capital. A man who was arrested in March has gone viral after breaking into a Five Guys, not for money, but to make a meal.
A battle for the rights to what some call the unofficial anthem to the civil rights movement has begun in court. The rights to the song We Shall Overcome belongs to a group in Virginia, Ludlow Music Incorporated and the Richmond organization, but a lawsuit has been filed to have the song placed in the public domain.
A patrolman in Minnesota catches a driver going at 171 miles per hour on Highway 61 late last week. It was Friday afternoon when patrolman Sean Patton said he clocked the 2016 Chevy Camaro speeding. The driver was later charged with careless driving, which carries a penalty of up to 90 days in jail. And now, here's Kayla with a look at the warmer weather ahead.
Good. Thanks, guys. Taking a look at the weather in Glassboro tonight, we're going to have a low of 37 degrees with clear skies. Looking into next week, tomorrow, a high of 64, beautiful out, sunny as well, with a low of 39. But into this weekend, we're going to hit around the mid-60s to the low 70s, getting pretty cool again at night, around 45, 30 degrees. On to next week, on Monday, we're going to have a high of 77, close to the 80s, with a low of 52. And on Tuesday, partly cloudy, but still beautiful out as well. a high of 68, 45 degrees. Now let's take a look at the weather window. As you can see, the Profs, it's a beautiful day. The Profs baseball team was out there. I caught them right before they were about to start their game. It's a great day to have a baseball game. But no snow this weekend.
No snow.
Yeah, maybe we're done for
Yeah.
the season finally.
Maybe. Maybe not, but it'll be nice out.
Yeah, Monday's
sure.
really nice.
Definitely.
Almost 80.
Yeah.
Almost summertime.
Almost summertime.
About a month away.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kayla.
You're welcome.
That's all for this week's National Rundown. I'm Alexa Carini.
And I'm Jenna Lundstedt. Have a good night.